So radical appreciation. My personal definition of radical appreciation is a thorough and complete awareness and appreciation for the beauty and abundance in all things, all people, and all of life. It's fairly simple. It's just seeing the fullness everywhere, in everyone. And this came to me as a result of going through an experience that really shattered and rattled the cages of my world at the time. And this statement is so true. Gratitude is absolutely the way to bring more in my life. So if you can imagine, it was May of 2009 when I started my business officially. And I remember being so excited because I knew that I was beginning this journey of creating a business around the things that I was passionate about and not doing it for somebody else anymore and selling products that I didn't, pharmaceutical sales, selling products that really didn't align with who I was. And to move away from that and move into something that I was just so in love with, it was a huge shift in my universe. And I was still operating from lack and scarcity. So 6 months into my business, I literally had minimized my life into a 300 square foot studio apartment. This was the building that I lived in, and I lived on the fifth floor, and it was literally a room where my kitchen and my bedroom and my living room and pretty much my bathroom were all in the same place. And I was operating at such scarcity that along the way, I remember thinking to myself, I'm not good enough. I don't have enough experience. You know, who am I to be doing this work? I don't have enough clients. I don't have enough money. And the whole underlying tone was not good enough. And in not good enough, the energy component of that is what? It's lack. It's absolute lack. And whether we're looking in ourselves or looking at other people or looking in our universe or looking at our business, when we see not good enough, we see lack. And because we're energetic channels, we're going to channel that into our reality. So when I was saying, oh, there's nothing that I have that's not good enough, I was channeling all kinds of stuff to create the thought patterns that were showing up for me around lack and not good enough. And so I was in a 300 square foot studio apartment, not really happy about what was going on in my life at the time. And so I remember 3 months living in that space. I come home and I'm already pissed off, you know, being this life coach at the time that really overall wasn't really happy, you know, and I thought, who the hell am I to be teaching this to people? Who the hell am I to be coaching people when I'm not even there? And so one day I come home, and this is literally the space that I lived in. They put the refrigerator in the living room because it couldn't fit in the kitchen. And so, you know, it was a place that I could live and rest my head. And at the same time, these lack patterns just kept showing up and showing up and showing up and showing up. And my bank account began to dwindle. You know, I couldn't make car payments. I was at a point where I was like, I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm almost unemployable at this point because I had jumped job to job to job just to make ends meet. And so it got to the point where we are so powerful. And when we step into any kind of thought pattern consistently, we create that shit in our life. So one morning I come home, or one day I come home from my office, and I noticed something jittering in my bed curtain. And as I opened it up, I saw a patch of bed bugs. And I got fucking pissed. You know, I got even more pissed off because I was like, you know, I'm doing this work. You know, I'm stepping out into the unknown. I'm challenging myself. I'm expanding myself. I'm stepping into the uncertainty. And I mean, I was pissed off at God. I was like, God, this is how you repay me? You know, I fucking jump out into the unknown, and this is doing the work that I know I'm meant to do, and this is how you repay me? And I got pissed. I got really pissed off. And so, out of all places, I fall onto my bed and start crying. And I remember being pissed, and I asked this question. I said, what the fuck am I missing? Like, I'm doing, what the fuck am I missing? And within 3, 4, 5 seconds, this impulse shot in my mind, and it was bright, and it was powerful, and it changed everything for me. And it was radical appreciation. I began to realize, like, all these flashes came through of what I had been thinking. You know, the lack mentality that I had been thinking, the scarcity patterns that I was thinking. And I thought, of course, I get this. I know it. I've learned this stuff. It's like when anything we think, we create. And so it was a game changer for me. It was an absolute game changer. I still had to go get a job because I wasn't making ends meet. So I was working for $12 an hour, making phone calls to set appointments up for insurance agents and random cold calls. So I was that guy calling you, during dinner time saying, hey, I want to set you up with an appointment with an insurance agent. And got hung up on a lot. But what I did during that time was absolutely important. Between each call, I was writing lists of things I was grateful for. I got grateful for bed bugs. I said, thank God that I get to be this vessel of nurturing for these bed bugs. Before I realized there were bed bugs, I had all kinds of bites and shit on my leg, and I didn't know what they were. I had no idea what bed bugs were. I just heard about them. I heard the whole saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. And it's true. And so, for 3 weeks, I just lived in radical appreciation. I want to offer a couple of tools that changed it all for me. One of them was simple. Every step I took to reshift and reprogram my mind, I said, thank you. Thank you. Every step I took. And I did that, I don't know for how long, probably 3 or 4 weeks. I got scared of fear. Because fear is what created this. So I created a fear of fear. I thought, pretty cool. And so for weeks, months, every step I took was thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And what showed up as a result of it, the reflections that showed up, more clients started coming, more people started signing up for my events that weren't even that big at the time. And everything started chunking together. And after 3 weeks, I was able to resign from that job because everything shifted. I literally went from lack and scarcity to prosperity. And not just money. Prosperity isn't money, is it? It's a piece of it. But somebody who's wealthy and unhappy, is that success? Is that prosperity? But when you can create and generate income and generate money and be totally happy and fulfilled, that's prosperous. That's prosperous. When you can have no money and be totally fulfilled, that's prosperous. And gratitude and appreciation are the foundation, the absolute foundation for all of that. So I want to invite you and even challenge you, how much more grateful can you get for the life that we have? I mean, you ever think about, like, your heart beats and pumps gallons of blood in your body every single day without even having to think about it? I mean, there's so many things to be grateful for. And I began looking for every little thing that I could be grateful for. I had a car that was barely working at the time, and I just became really grateful for the car that I had. I became grateful for the clothes that I had. After the bed bugs came, they pretty much eliminated everything that I owned at the time, and it was a really powerful experience for me to learn non-attachment to things, because I didn't have anything anymore. My rug, the couch I had, the bed, all gone. The only thing I left were some clothes, some shoes, and my computer and my printer. And thank God for that, so I could run my business. And so I moved out of there, and fortunately I have a brother who's always been there for me. And right as I got bed bugs, he calls me like within a week, and he says, what's going on, bro? He's like, I just got a new place, come check it out. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, and he wasn't using the other room for anything else. And so he's like, I told him what was going on. And he said, dude, live with me. It's like, you can live with me rent free. And I got even more grateful. I didn't have much. I didn't have anything. But I got grateful. Every morning I got up and I took a walk. And it was about a 30-minute walk. And every step was thank you, thank you, thank you. Just appreciating the sunrise, appreciating the air that we breathe, appreciating the clothes that I had, appreciating the friendships, appreciating the money that I did have. And there was another gift that showed up from that. As I was moving out of my apartment complex, I was outside and I was sitting and I was just kind of thinking about and reflecting about what had happened. And all of a sudden I look over and I see this baby squirrel. And this is a real picture that I took of it. And it was on this like small ledge, brick ledge, and it was shaking and struggling, trying to get back to the top. And I looked over, I said, oh shit. So I went in my room and I grabbed a sock and I went and picked it up and I brought it into my place. And it taught me how gentle and delicate life can be. And I have no idea what happened to that squirrel afterward, but I know it came into my life to teach me something. And this little gift, this little fucking gift was I sat with him for like a whole day and I took pictures and I Facebooked it. And it's just like, how delicate and beautiful is this thing called life? You know, how lucky are we to be able to fucking be alive, you know? To choose the way that we want to live, to choose our own thoughts. And what if that's our greatest gift? Is to be able to choose our own thoughts, because that's what creates. And like all these things started chunking together, and I never looked back. Over the 9 months I lived with my brother, I got so grateful, and my business radically changed. I radically changed. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. And if there's anything that I can invite the whole world to do, is be grateful. Because if the whole world got grateful in an instant, peace would happen. And so how can we be more grateful in our lives? Here's a picture of my brother. We have lots of fun. This is actually Christmas of 2005, and we joke around, and he's just been a protector for me my whole life. I remember one time I was at a party, I was in 8th grade, and I started drinking and smoking weed at a pretty early age. And I was in 8th grade, and he comes to this party, he heard I was there, and he looks at me, he's like, "You ain't drinking, are you?" He's like, and like he was stern with me, and I wasn't at the time. And he said, "You ain't drinking, are you?" And he's always been this like protector for me, this guider, and this gift. And in this moment in time, he became just this this nurturer of me, and I'm just so grateful for him. And so along the way, I moved in with my brother over 8 months. Things started changing powerfully, as a result, mostly as a result of gratitude, but also me continuing to grow and expand, going to seminars, going to events. And after about 8 months, it was time for me to move out. I had started generating some pretty kick-ass income. And along that time, I was very resistant to hiring a coach, because I thought, well, I'm a coach. I don't need a coach. I know how to do this. I can do it myself. Anybody else have any of those patterns? Yeah. And so I finally got to the point I was hitting the ceiling and doing well for myself. Like I was making like $4,000 a month, which was huge for me at the time. You know, I was able to pay my bills and even have an extra little money for food. And my diet when I was living in the 300 square foot studio apartment was rice and fruit. That's all I ate, was rice and fruit, because rice is cheap as shit, you know, and it's like almost the college ramen noodle diet, you know. And so anyway, fast forward, as I'm leaving, I can see Dana Husky and Angela Sargo over there are like my food angels. Like they've helped me so much changing my consciousness around food. So I'm so grateful for you too. And so along the way, I decided, okay, it's time for me, because I kept hitting this $4,000 a month ceiling, and I thought it's time for me to consider hiring a coach. So I'm at this networking event. Anybody ever been to a Behind the Moon event? Yeah, Sabrina Risley's fantastic. If you want another great peer group to hang around, Behind the Moon might be a great bunch of connections for you. Oh, it's called Certus now, Certus Network. And so I remember being at this network meeting, and I meet this woman. Her name is Ingrid Elver. And she's real potent, right? And like, for me, kind of cheesy too, but like in a real sweet way. She's totally authentic. And so I meet her, and I had seen her speak before at Joe Saba's event. Anybody ever been to Joe Saba's event? I love that man. She was a speaker at Joe Saba's event, and she was talking about social media, so I assumed she was a social media coach. So I see her at this event, and we're talking, having a conversation, and this guy comes up. I was like, you know, "Hey, John, meet Ingrid. She's a social media coach." And she gives me this dirty-ass look. She says, she went like this. And I'm like, "What do you look at me like that for?" She's like, "I'm not a social media coach." And I was like, "What do you do?" She's like, "I help people become celebrities in their industry." And I thought, oh, okay, let's talk. And then enters Ingrid Elver. Oh, no, never mind. And I said, okay, let's talk. And so as we're having a conversation on the phone, I'm getting all excited. She's telling me all these things that we can do with my business, because I maxed out my current business model at the time. And so she was sitting there telling me about all these things that we were going to do, and I got so excited, you know, and she said, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "No, I'm ready. What's it going to cost me?" She's like, "It's going to be $10,000 for the year." And I thought, oh shit, my balls shriveled, literally. and those old scarcity and lack patterns showed up again, right? I went into them, and because I associated an immense amount of pain to lack and scarcity, I became aware of them. I said, oh shit, what's that? That's not something I want to indulge in anymore. But I responded from those patterns. I said, "Ingrid, I can't afford that. I can't afford to work with you." And she called me on my shit. And that's what I loved most about working with her. She called me on my shit. She said, "Bullshit, George." She's like, "That's your block." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "That's your block." She said, "You're used to looking at your bank account and making decisions based on that versus making a decision in faith and trusting that, number one, you're powerful enough to create, and two, that the universe will support you. She called me on my shit, and I had nowhere to go, and I said, you're right. And I said, let's do it. And so I didn't have the money. I had $1,000 to put down, and I had about $1,400 in my account at the time, so I put $1,000 down, and I said, okay, somehow, some way, let's make it work. I made the decision. Decisions create. Choices create. Have you ever made a decision that changes the whole direction of your life? We make one decision, it can change the whole direction of our life. And I love what Tony Robbins says about the decisions we make direct the destiny that we're going. Decisions shape destiny. And I made a decision that I wanted more of me, I wanted more from my business, and I wanted to help more people, and I wanted to generate more income. And I made a decision to work with her. I put $1,000 down, and we decided April 5th was going to be the date that we started. So the minute I made that decision, 4 hours later, I got a call from a potential client that I had a conversation with a few months back. He said, George, I'm ready. And I got 3 calls like that, and people just started showing up like crazy. People started showing up for my events. Choice creates. What choices can you now make that will create so much more in your world? What choices are you avoiding that if you did make would expand your universe like crazy? And so I decided to work with her. And 3 months later, my business tripled. I had a $12,000 month. It was more money I'd ever made in my life. And I was like on top of the world. And all because I chose at one moment to be grateful for the life that I had and the business that I had. It got me to the point where I was able to say yes to this angel, this absolute fucking angel that came into my life. And she never, ever let me drop below who she knew who I was. Anytime I went into limiting patterns, she's like, George, quit being bullshit, quit being a pussy. And she used words like that. And I appreciate it because that's kind of my style too. And I loved working with her, loved it. So over the course of the year, my business absolutely exploded. The investment itself paid for itself within a couple of few months. And working with her totally expanded my business model. Everything changed working with her. And so I worked with her for a year. My business absolutely changed. And now, it's like 6 years ago, I had this vision of moving to San Diego. I visited for the first time, as a lot of you know, and I had this impulse. And it said, San Diego told me, you're going to live here someday. And I was like, cool. I'll keep the vision for that. And so I'd go and visit and take pictures of places I wanted to live, and I would go and just experience the nightlife and the people and go to the ocean, go to the beach, and just got it into my consciousness. I thought, well, if I go here enough, eventually my brain will think that I live here. And it'll start creating what's necessary in order for me to live in San Diego. And so as you know, on December 18th, I'm flying to San Diego. And what I really want you to get is that it's not about like cooler stuff. It's not about more money. It's about the person you must become along the way to have those things. It's like I tell people to reach big financially because it's not about the money, but it's who you have to become to step into that place financially. And so the gift of gratitude is an absolute game changer.